Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling a very heavy but important moment from India's history.
We're going into the events surrounding the assassination of Indira Gandhi back in 1984.
Right, India's first and so far only woman prime minister. Our sources give us a way to look at, what happened, the buildup, and the fallout.
It's definitely a period marked by intense tragedy and political turmoil. The sources help lay out that chain of events.
Okay, so maybe first, let's establish who Indira Gandhi was, based on our material. Prime Minister, obviously.
Yes, and crucially, the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru, India's very first prime minister. So from a major political family.
And the sources mention how people felt about her. It wasn't simple, was it?
Not at all. They point to really divided opinions. She had very strong supporters, people who admired her leadership.
But also significant opposition, people who didn't agree with her policies, her decisions.
Exactly. That backdrop of mixed public feeling. It's pretty important context, according to the material.
And leading up to 84, the sources really highlight the situation in Punjab. Things were difficult there.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah,
the material focuses on the growing movement among some Sikh groups for Khalistan.
a separate homeland just for Sikhs.
Right. And the sources stress that the Indian government saw this as a serious threat, like a fundamental challenge to national unity.
So a lot of anxiety there.
Definitely. And this tension, it builds and builds, and eventually leads to a really critical decision by Indira Gandhi.
Operation Blue Star. She ordered the Indian army into the Golden Temple in Amritsar.
Yes, which the sources describe as, the holiest site for Sikhs. This was June 1984.
And the official reason given in the sources
Was that armed militants were inside the temple complex using it as a base. The army's mission was to remove them.
But the operation itself, the sources describe it as bloody.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Many people died. Militants, yes, but also innocent worshippers caught in the middle. And the temple complex itself suffered damage.
Which must have had a huge impact on the Sikh community.
Immense. The sources emphasize this feeling of deep hurt, widespread anger, a sense that their religion itself had been attacked by the state.
Yeah, you can see how that would be perceived.
And that feeling, that intense reaction, is presented in the material as absolutely crucial context for what happens just a few months later.
Which brings us to October 31st, 1984, the morning of...
Yes, the day Indira Gandhi was assassinated.
Killed by her own bodyguards, according to the sources.
That's right, 2 men from her security detail, Beant Singh and Satwan Singh.
And the sources point out they were both Sikhs.
They do, and their stated motive, as recorded in the material, was directly linked back to Operation Blue Star.
Retaliation for the Golden Temple action?
Precisely. That's what they reportedly claimed.
What happened to them, the bodyguards?
Well, Beant Singh was killed almost immediately, right there at the scene. Satwan Singh was captured, arrested, and then later executed, hanged.
A horrific event, directly tied back to the earlier conflict. But the violence didn't stop there, did it? The sources talk about what happened next.
No, it didn't stop. And this next part, it's described as an incredibly dark chapter in the source material. Riots broke out.
Anti-Sikh riots, specifically. Where did the sources say it was worst?
Particularly in Delhi. The sources describe widespread, horrific violence against Sikh communities.
What kind of details do they give? It sounds awful.
They detail mobs attacking Sikh homes, burning shops, destroying gurdwaras, their places of worship.
Just targeting anyone who is Sikh.
Yes. Many people were killed, often brutally. Women were attacked, children lost their families.
Yeah.
The sources use terms like pogrom and emphasize the systematic nature of some of the violence.
A very dark time, as the sources put it.
Absolutely. And the sources also touch on accountability, or the lack thereof.
Suggesting some political figures were involved, or at least didn't stop it.
Yes, accusations of complicity or incitement were made against some leaders. And the material highlights that getting justice for the victims has been a very long, painful, and often frustrating process.
A wound that, according to the sources, hasn't fully healed even today.
It really underscores how quickly things can spiral out of control when political and communal tensions are exploited.
So, politically, after the assassination, who stepped in?
Her son, Rajiv Gandhi, he became the next prime minister.
And the sources suggest the public mood helped him.
Yes, there was a huge wave of public sympathy after his mother's assassination, and that definitely played into his party's massive election victory soon after.
Initially, his focus was on modernizing India, the sources say.
Right, technology, looking forward. But there's a particular quote attributed to him in the material that became infamous.
Ah, yes. The one about the tree.
That's the one. The sources quote him saying, "When a big tree falls, the earth shakes."
How is that interpreted? The sources must discuss the reaction.
They do. It was widely seen, especially by those affected by the riots and human rights groups, as an attempt to justify or minimize the anti-Sikh violence.
It's like saying it was just an inevitable reaction.
Sort of, yeah. Whether that was his intent or not, that's how it was perceived by many. And the sources make it clear it caused immense anger and pain. It felt like rubbing salt in the wounds.
Okay, so looking beyond the immediate aftermath, what did the sources say about the long-term effects of 1984?
They outline some pretty significant lasting impacts. A key one is the deep chasm it created or widened between Hindu and Sikh communities.
A breakdown of trust.
Definitely. And for many Sikhs, the sources describe a lasting feeling of insecurity, of being targeted, of not quite belonging in their own country after those events.
It's a sense of alienation.
Yes. The sources also point to how 1984 brought a certain kind of brutal violence and fear into the mainstream of Indian politics.
And it really highlighted the dangers, didn't it, when religion and politics mix in volatile ways?
Absolutely. It stands as a stark example, according to the material, of how badly that combination can go wrong in a diverse nation.
How do the sources say 1984 is remembered today?
Primarily with sadness. Profound sadness and pain, especially within the Sikh diaspora and among those who lived through it. It's a historical scar.
And the lesson the material draws from it all.
It seems to be a powerful, if tragic, reminder about why things like peace, mutual respect, and genuine unity are just so critical, especially in societies with lots of different groups.
It's really been a difficult story to unpack, using the sources to understand the assassination and the awful violence that followed in 1984. It's painful history, but important history.
Vital to understand, even when it's uncomfortable.
So for you listening, thinking about everything we've discussed based on the source material, what can understanding the tangled web of religion, politics, identity, and violence in 1984 teach us about the challenges of unity, justice, and reconciliation? Not just in India, but maybe in any diverse society. It's certainly something worth reflecting on.